Good day. My name is Dr. Xavier Brown, brother of the famous food personality, and I'm here with an important message about your health. If you're not eating oats or oatmeal every single day, you're probably dying. The shocking truth is outlined in my blockbuster, Eat More Oats or Die Screaming It. In it, I tell the cold, hard facts and share life-saving recipes developed by my award-winning culinary megastar brother. It's not too late. What's going on? What is this outrage? How dare you interrupt? Ow! Hey, man, it's an infomercial. You're supposed to lie a little bit. Oh, don't. Come on. Oh, look, I'm just trying to move a few copies of my oat book. I mean, it's not exactly flying off the shelves, you know? I try to convince everyone that the oat is a capable culinary multitasker, deserving of a prominent place in the pantry. I did a whole show about oats, but they didn't care. They just wanted to laugh at me in my kilt. You guys ever watch the show? Look, I just thought that if I could appeal to their survival instincts, you know, they'd play up the health angle, they'd spend $29.95 plus shipping and handling. You be careful with that. That's a rental. You know, and then I could convince them that oats aren't just good, they're... My attorneys have convinced me that instead of attempting to portray a member of the medical community, I should instead compel you to eat more oats by appealing to your culinary sensibilities, because oats are, in fact, unique gustatory snowflakes capable of converting many foods into, well, the aforementioned good eats. Now, I know pantry space is tight, so I'm not going to rattle on about the different forms of oats, you know, groats, steel-cut pinheads, and the like. We're just going to stick with good old-fashioned rolled oats. But not all rolled oats are alike. Now, let's just pretend for a moment that this lump of pasta dough is actually a whole oat grain, or groat, the fruit of the Avena sativa plant, if you like. Now, the process begins by hulling this grain and then steaming it to make it pliable, like this, all right? Now, to make a standard old-fashioned oat, the groat is simply rolled like this, a little on the thick side, and it is dried. Now, some companies toast them afterwards in order to kind of bump up the flavor. It's something you could easily do at home. Now, to make a quick cooked oat, you take the same groat and you cut it into pieces. And then each one of these pieces is in turn rolled very thin, much thinner than the original rolled oat in most cases. And that looks something like this. Now, to make instant oats, of course, you would start with an even thinner slice and roll it even thinner, if you can imagine that. Now, I do not care for this type of oat, either in the bowl or in other applications, because, well, they tend to fall apart and they don't have the same flavor or texture. The process also tends to damage some of the soluble fibers, and that's not a good thing. So, from here on out, we will be using standard old-fashioned rolled oats. They may not be quick, they may not be instant, but they are good. Let's say for a moment that you made some oatmeal simply by following the instructions on the bag or box. Most of the time that means 2 cups of water with just a pinch of salt added, kosher in our case, of course. You bring that to a boil and then stir in 1 cup of oats for a 2-to-1 water-oat ratio. You clamp on the lid, you drop the heat, 15 minutes later, boom, you got yourself some oatmeal. Very nice. Maybe a little on the dry side, but it's okay. Now, let's say that you serve up a nice big heart-healthy bowl of this oaty goodness to, I don't know, yourself or somebody else in the house. Order up. You got this. All right, good. Now, you've got leftover, 12 ounces of oats, okay? That's 1.5 cups of concentrated culinary power featuring protein, soluble and insoluble fiber, complex carbohydrates such as pentosans and glucans, water retaining molecules, powerful stuff, I guarantee. Now, let's say that while your leftovers were still warm, you added 2 tablespoons of agave syrup, all right? Now, this is a neutral flavored liquid sweetener made from the very same plant that gives us tequila, but with the consistency of honey. I love this stuff, found in most mega marts and certainly at health food stores. Now, let's say on top of that, you added 1/4 cup of warm water and a tablespoon of olive oil. There. Now, meanwhile, in another bowl, let's say that you were to combine a 1/4 cup of uncooked oats with 1 envelope of active dry yeast, a teaspoon of kosher salt, and 11 ounces by weight of bread flour. Why bread flour? Well, because we want to capture some of the yeast. You know, the next book I write is going to be an etiquette book for unicellular organisms that may or may not actually be plants. Anyway, as you all know, we cannot capture these emissions without gluten, that molecular mesh created when wheat proteins are agitated with water. Just imagine that the balloons are bubbles. No gluten, no rise. Now, I'm using bread flour because it contains even more protein than regular all-purpose flour. Our oatmeal, on the other hand, contains no gluten whatsoever. So we use the bread flour to compensate, all right? Now we're going to introduce the dry team into the wet team in 3 easy installments, making sure to work each in before adding the next. Now, by the time the dry team is thoroughly integrated, you're going to have one big sticky mess on your hands. Time to get this out of the pan. All right, turn the dough out onto a lightly floured surface, a counter, board, table, what have you, and knead by hand for 10 minutes, adding flour as needed. Keep in mind it should be sticky, not, you know, tar baby sticky, but sticky. All right, then lightly oil a bowl, food-grade bucket, or some other vessel. Insert the dough, cover, and leave in a warm spot for 1 hour. Right, hour is up, so it is time to punch down the dough. Now, punch is actually just an expression. Food doesn't like violence. It just means that we're going to try to work out most of the big bubbles created by the yeast. Just kind of knock it down, and I like to fold it out almost into a rectangle. Then roll that up, and hopefully it will fit into a 9x5 loaf pan. I'm using nonstick. If you don't have nonstick, you want to grease up that pan a little bit. There you go. Cover with plastic and refrigerate for at least 8 hours and as many as 15. I like to make this up right after cooking my morning oatmeal. That way it's ready to bake up by dinner time. And when that time comes, a bit of final prep will be necessary. 1 tablespoon of water is lightly beaten into 1 egg yolk to create an egg wash. And just brush that on top of the loaf. Be gentle. Don't want to push any of the CO2 out of that loaf. And then finally top it with, say, a tablespoon more of the rolled oats. You can use more or less depending on what you like. And hey, feel free to make a mess like me. There. In 55 to 60 minutes, the internal temperature of this loaf should reach 210 degrees. When it does, and that is perfect, remove the loaf to a cooling rack for at least half an hour before serving. Now, here we have a loaf of bread that's tasty, thrifty, and extremely healthful due to the high, what am I saying? I don't know anything about the healthy stuff. Say, hey, you fellas like waffles? Well, what if I told you you could get your oats for breakfast by eating waffles instead of oatmeal? Would you like that? Well, oh, never mind. Our OT Odyssey begins with 2 cups of buttermilk, and this will need to come to room temperature, but don't worry, it is extremely acidic. You could basically cover it and leave it overnight on the counter and nothing would happen. Bacteria hate this stuff. Next, toast 5½ ounces of old-fashioned rolled oats in a 10-inch skillet for about 3 minutes or until they're just starting to darken and you can smell some oats in the air. Then move them off into your favorite food processor, clamp on the lid and spin until it's basically the consistency of a whole wheat flour. Oh, and you're going to want to go ahead and preheat your waffle iron per the manufacturer's instructions. Now, meanwhile, we turn to the wet team. That is going to be 3 large eggs and beat them almost smooth before slowly drizzling in 2 ounces of melted unsalted butter. You can let that cool a little so it doesn't cook the eggs. Then bring in the buttermilk. Why room temperature? So it won't solidify the butter, of course. All right, There we've got the wet team, and the consistency looks good on the flour. So the rest of the dry team, 4 ounces by weight of all-purpose flour, 3 tablespoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon baking powder, half a teaspoon baking soda, which is usually less than the baking powder, and then finally 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Now just lid up and spin that just a few pulses just to mix. There. Now time to introduce that to the wet works. Usually I would go the other way, but this is just easier because we're coming straight out of the food processor. So I'm going to work in batches, just whisking in 3 batches at a time until everything is nice and integrated. At this point, you could chill the batter overnight as long as you let it sit at room temperature 30 minutes before hitting the iron. What am I saying? I'm hungry now. How much batter that goes into each waffle will depend, of course, on your exact make and model of machine. I typically go with 4 to 5 ounces, and I'm using a 4-ounce ladle here. Just kind of run it out to the edges and ease the lid down. Don't slam or you'll make a mess. If you need to hold your waffles for more than a couple of minutes, you may want to heat your oven to its lowest setting and stash them in there. If you're only going to be holding them for 1 to 2 minutes, just remove when finished. Hey, that looks nice. And fold them up in a kitchen towel. That'll do. Now, I guess I better make some more to feed those pesky lawyers. Besides the obvious health attributes, which we've established I am not qualified to discuss, these are tasty waffles with a delightful crispness that comes from the fact that oat flour does not hydrate as readily as wheat flour. So there's a pleasing contrast of crunchy to soft. Yeah, we could have made more if you... No, never mind. Look at this. Look at this. We got a cup and a half flour. And this one, we got a cup of flour. This one, 2 cups self-rising flour over here. 3 ounces cake flour. 8 ounces sifted whole wheat flour. And, oh, I love this. 6 ounces of rice flour, which is gluten-free. But hey, kids, riddle me this. What the heck is wheat doing in an oatmeal cookie? Huh? I mean, besides, if we make them with 100% oats, they will be more healthy. At least as healthy as any cookie worth eating could be, and that means we could eat more of them, right? Let's go. Spread 16 ounces by weight of rolled oats onto a sheet pan and bake at 375 degrees for 20 minutes or until lightly toasted. Oh, this is the same maneuver that we executed in the pan for the waffles, but since there's a lot more of them, it makes sense to do it in here. To continue the oatmeal cookies, place half of the toasted oats into the food processor and pulverize into a powder. Meanwhile, 10 ounces of unsalted room temperature butter go into the work bowl of your stand mixer, along with 6 ounces of dark brown sugar and 3.5 ounces of regular sugar. Attach your paddle thusly and beat on medium speed for about 3 minutes or until smooth and light. You no doubt recognize the beginnings of the creaming method, wherein we cream the fat and sugar together, integrate any liquids, including eggs and all extracts, and then slowly work in the dry team, including flours, salt, and leavening, and then finish with any optional parts. More on that later. Now, the creamed mixture looks smooth, so I'm going to drop the speed and add 1 large chicken egg and about a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Just let that stir. All right, the oats look thoroughly pulverized, so I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon and 1 teaspoon of baking powder and just a pinch, or maybe 2, of kosher salt. There, good. Now it's time to bring this into the creamed material, but it's tough to dump out of that bowl, so I'm going to put everything onto a paper plate. I love these for adding things to mixers because you can bend them so easily. There you go. Just kind of flex that and very, very slowly add the powder. Now we might as well talk about the optional parts. Behold, 4 ounces of raisins, an ingredient that I have always thought of as optional at best. And yet, 99.7% of traditional oatmeal cookies do call for them. So how do we make them more palatable? Well, I'll tell you how. We soak them overnight in dark rum. Of course, you will have to strain off the rum before adding the raisins to the cookies. And what you do with it is, well, it's up to you. So lower the speed to stir and add the optional ingredients. And then finally, the other half of the toasted oats. Remember, that's another 8 ounces by my math. It's going to take a while to really work into a smooth batter, but that's okay. Give it a couple of minutes. Dose out with a 1.5 ounce disher if you have it. I have parchment paper, a half sheet pan, no grease or lube necessary. I like to start with the corners so that I get even 2-inch spacing. I'm going to get 12 onto this pan. We'll need 2 pans for 24 cookies total. Bake for 12 to 14 minutes, still at 375, rotating the pans after 6 minutes. In the end, you want them to just start browning around the edges. Of course, if you like them really, really crunchy, go 15 to 17 tops. Then cool on the pans for 2 minutes before moving to racks to cool completely. Now, I should mention that if you don't want to cook all of the cookies, you can place one pan in the freezer. After a couple of hours, the pucks will be rock solid, and at that point, you can move them to a zip-top bag for long-term storage, say 6 months to a year. See, fellas? Delicious. I don't even have to sell the whole health angle here now, do I? But if I were a doctor or did know anything at all about healthy food, I might mention the fact that oats can lower bad cholesterol while raising good cholesterol. You guys know the difference, right? Do you? Don't you? Don't you? All right, come on. Let's pretend for a moment that all these lovely papers from your briefcases are cholesterol, a waxy compound which, unbeknownst to most, is actually a naturally occurring steroid produced in the liver. Cholesterol actually assists in various bodily functions, from forming cell membranes to building digestive bile salts and even constructing sex hormones. And you guys, stick with me, please, would you? Now, since it is waxy, cholesterol cannot mix with blood, so your body produces carriers in the form of 2 protein structures: low-density lipoproteins, or LDLs, and high-density lipoproteins, or HDLs, which will be portrayed today by your rather cheap, shabby briefcases. Now, LDLs deliver cholesterol to cells, okay? So we're going to say I'm a cell, so go ahead, deliver me cholesterol. Come on, give me some. Oh, hey, none for me today, thanks. I already have plenty due to a diet high in animal fat, steak, butter, egg yolks, and the like, all right? So I'm rejecting the delivery, and once a cell rejects delivery, well, the LDL just starts sticking the cholesterol all over the place. Go ahead, go ahead. For instance, in your arteries, where it can cause a dangerous, if not deadly, condition. Oh, yeah, this is going to be a terrible, terrible mess inside your body. Luckily, HDLs are capable of gathering up that cholesterol and returning it to the liver for recycling, hence good cholesterol. So go ahead, gather it up, gather it up, gather it all up. Yeah. Problem is LDLs typically outnumber HDLs 3 to 1, which can be a really big problem. How do oats help? Good question. All right, here is how oats help to fight cholesterol. Now, remember, I said that some of the cholesterol created by the liver is delivered to the small intestines in the form of digestive bile salts. All right, so here they are doing their job. Now, you eat some oats, and they move very slowly through the intestines because of a soluble fiber which forms a gel. Now, one of the fibers is called beta-glucan, and it can actually capture and lock on to cholesterol, just kind of gathers it up so that it then ties it up, throws it out with the trash, if you get my meaning. Now, I'm not suggesting that a couple of cookies are going to fix what ails you, but enough research has been done to convince the FDA to allow cholesterol-lowering health claims to be made on packages of oats. And now you know. Down South America way, it can get muy caliente, and nobody's about to cook up a big hot bowl of porridge down there. Luckily, much of the oat's goodness is water soluble, which means it can be coaxed into a soothing, delicious beverage called refresco de avena, avena being Latin for oats, don't you know? So it all begins with 1 quart of warm water. Into that, we dissolve 1/2 cup of piloncillo. It's unrefined Mexican sugar, usually comes in a cone like this, easily found in the ethnic aisle of your local megamart. Then we add 1/2 cup, that's 2 ounces by weight, of standard rolled oats. And then the zest of 1 lime. You could harvest that with a peeler if you like. Last but not least, 1/2 teaspoon of cardamom seeds. Then cover this up, give it a shake or a stir, and let it steep for 1 to 2 hours. Then strain and serve with a little squirt of lime juice. Good for you. Certainly better than some silly old soda pop. In closing, not only are oats filled with culinary potential, they are packed with complex chemical goodness which could, maybe, possibly, save your life. Some studies have even shown them to have calming chemical properties. I'm Dr. Xavier Brown saying, buy my book, and see you next time on Good Eats.